Dwayne The Rock Johnson just walked into a federal courtroom and left Hollywood frozen in fear. This wasn't a movie. This wasn't scripted. This was real. And what he revealed about Shawn Diddy Combs didn't just shake the courtroom, it shattered the silence of an entire industry. The man known for his strength, his smile, and his dominance in the ring stood trembling, red-eyed, gripping the microphone with shaking hands. And when he finally spoke, no one in that room, not even Diddy, was prepared for what came next. It wasn't a scandal. It was a confession. A chilling exposé of rituals, control, and psychological torment that he claims nearly broke him. And it all began with one name: Diddy. But what exactly did Dwayne experience behind closed doors? And why did he stay silent for nearly 2 decades? This is the story they never wanted you to hear. The courtroom had already seen its share of drama. Testimony from stars like Monique, Denzel Washington, and Jamie Foxx had left the jury hanging on to every word. But no one, not even the prosecution, expected what happened next. The heavy oak doors creaked open, every head turned, and in walked Dwayne The Rock Johnson. But this wasn't the Hollywood icon fans knew from red carpets or blockbuster premieres. His usual confidence was gone. Instead, he looked exhausted, like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched the microphone. And when he took the stand, he didn't come with papers, lawyers, or a prepared statement. He came with a secret, one he'd buried for nearly 20 years. As he approached the witness stand, a hush fell over the courtroom. Prosecutors exchanged tense glances. Diddy's legal team scrambled, whispering in confusion. Even Diddy himself, usually stoic, looked rattled, his eyes darting toward the exit like a man who'd just seen a ghost from his past. And then, Dwayne did something no one expected. Before even taking the oath, he asked the judge, "Your Honor, may I speak freely?" The judge hesitated, then nodded. Dwayne turned to the jury, then slowly locked eyes with Diddy. His voice, low and shaky, carried the weight of something dark, something he'd tried to outrun. "I didn't want to stand here at all," he said, "but my conscience wouldn't let me run from this anymore." For the first time in his life, The Rock wasn't playing a character. He was exposing one of the most disturbing chapters of his rise to fame and placing Diddy at the very center of it. But this was just the beginning. What he described next would silence the room and leave a permanent scar on the glittering surface of Hollywood. To the world, Dwayne Johnson has always been the image of invincibility, the raised eyebrow, the billion-dollar box office smile, the muscle-packed hero who could take down any villain, inside the ring or on the screen. But the man sitting on that witness stand wasn't unbreakable. As his voice cracked, the jury leaned in. This was no performance. This was a man on the edge. "People know me as The Rock," he said, "but today I feel like I'm standing on the edge of collapse." He paused, eyes glassy, shoulders heavy, as if every word dragged him deeper into a memory he wished he could forget. "For almost 20 years, I carried a secret," he continued. "Something I never told anyone. Not my friends, not even my wife. And the reason I stayed silent was fear." That admission hit like a gut punch, because fear isn't a word anyone associates with The Rock. But as he recounted his early days in Hollywood, it became clear. Behind the scenes, he wasn't calling the shots. He was being tested, watched, groomed. "I was fresh out of the WWE, trying to make it in film," he said. "And back then, I was told the same thing every new face hears, that if you want to succeed, you need the right people behind you." And Diddy, he was one of those people. At first, Dwayne explained, it felt like mentorship. Diddy opened doors, extended invitations, and made promises. Big roles, big money, big dreams. But that illusion didn't last. He said, "We need to talk in private." "I didn't think much of it," Dwayne recalled. But that conversation, that was the beginning of something darker, something I couldn't even define at the time. The Rock may have walked into Hollywood expecting to fight for roles. What he didn't expect was to fight for his soul. At first, Diddy's world seemed like a fantasy. Private jets, celebrity-packed parties, endless champagne, and velvet rope exclusivity. But Dwayne says it all shifted the moment Diddy asked him a chilling question. "What are you willing to do to reach the top?" Dwayne laughed it off, at least at first. But Diddy didn't blink. His expression stayed cold, calculated. Then came the first invitation, a private meeting, 2:13 a.m. at a secluded mansion in the Hollywood Hills. That's when real decisions are made, Diddy said. Dwayne showed up, unsure, uneasy, but driven. He waited over an hour, alone in a lavish room that felt more like a trap than a retreat. Then they arrived. A group of men in black suits, silent, expressionless, moving with an eerie calm. No introductions, no words, just presence. It felt like a ritual, Dwayne told the court. Like I was being watched, judged, like they were waiting to see if I'd flinch. The lights dimmed, the music stopped, and then Diddy's voice echoed from hidden speakers. Are you worthy? Are you ready? Will you accept what we offer? Dwayne's instincts screamed at him to leave, but he didn't. He was scared, not just of what was happening, but of what walking away might cost. The next phase came days later, a final challenge. Dwayne was blindfolded and taken to a remote estate outside Los Angeles. He asked the driver where they were going. No answer, just music turned up loud to drown out the question. At the location, he was led into a room lit by flickering candles and red lanterns. The walls were draped in black fabric. The air was cold, heavy, still. 5 men in suits sat around a table. At the head, Diddy, holding a crystal glass of something dark and oily. Then, a man in a white robe entered carrying a steel tray. He placed it before Dwayne and lifted the lid. What was underneath? Dwayne wouldn't describe it. Only this. A soft, pale, damp substance, still faintly warm. Diddy leaned in and whispered, "Everyone who wants to succeed must do this. Those who refuse, disappear." The room was silent, stares burning into him. No way out. The door was locked. Dwayne asked, "Is this a joke?" No one laughed. No one moved. Diddy handed him a spoon and said 5 words. Dwayne says still haunt him to this day. Hollywood doesn't need talent. It demands submission. Dwayne's hands trembled. He looked at the tray, then at the men, then back at the door. "I didn't want to do it," he said, "but I was terrified. And more than anything, I was afraid of losing everything." He lifted the spoon, took a bite. He doesn't remember the taste, only the sound of laughter, the sound of chewing, and the silence that followed. When the ritual was over, Diddy clapped his hands and said one chilling phrase, "Welcome to the next step." But Dwayne didn't feel welcomed. He felt hollow, contaminated. "I walked out of that room feeling like a part of my soul had died," he told the jury. "Not because of what I ate, but because of what I sacrificed." The shame didn't hit all at once. It crept in slowly, in his dreams, in the silence between roles, in the glances he exchanged with others who'd been there. That night changed everything. In the weeks that followed, Dwayne tried to return to work, to normal life, but the humiliation clung to him like a second skin. He'd smile at red carpet events, joke during interviews, shake hands with executives. But inside, he was crumbling. "I started therapy soon after," he said. But even there, I couldn't say what had happened. I didn't have the words. Just thinking about that room, the black walls, the red lanterns, the tray, it made it hard to breathe. His therapist urged him to talk, to name the pain, but Dwayne couldn't. Because how do you explain something that sounds too dark to be real? "It wasn't just a test," he said. "It was a trap. It was about power, control. And my silence, that was the final seal of obedience." After the ritual, everything changed. Suddenly, new opportunities rolled in. Roles he'd never auditioned for. Meetings with major studios. Praise from insiders who once ignored him. But it came with a quiet price. A subtle leash. They'd say, "Diddy vouched for you?" Dwayne recalled. "Like I'd earned some golden stamp. But deep down, I knew what that stamp really meant." When he asked questions about contracts or scripts, the smiles faded. He was warned. Don't make waves. Play the game, or the doors that just opened will slam shut. And once, when he declined a party invitation, just once, his agent called in a panic. A major film role had suddenly disappeared. No explanation, no chance to fix it. That's when he knew. "Silence wasn't suggested," Dwayne said. It was mandatory. He wasn't just living in fear of losing jobs, he was living in fear of losing himself. The trauma didn't stop the night of the ritual. It evolved into silence, into self-doubt, into a new reality where Dwayne Johnson, the man the world saw as invincible, was being quietly, methodically controlled. It wasn't just about that one night, he explained to the court. It was everything that came after. The calls, the meetings, the looks. He was being watched, maybe not with cameras or trackers, but with pressure, with expectation. And every time he tried to pull away, that pressure tightened. After the ritual, Dwayne was invited to what he believed was a wellness retreat for rising stars, industry bonding, personal growth, and strategic networking. But what he found was something else entirely. A remote desert estate. No phones allowed, no windows in the rooms, music playing on a constant loop, and the people? A mix of rising stars and seasoned veterans, each with the same hollow-eyed expression. At first, I thought it was just strange, Dwayne said. Then they started handing us scripts. Not movie scripts, pledges, lines of submission, oaths of loyalty. They told us to memorize them, to repeat them. They said it was for focus, for discipline. But I realized it was something else entirely. They were teaching us to mistake fear for loyalty, pain for progress. And no one resisted, because everyone knew what happened to people who said no. Dwayne described walking the halls late at night, passing other actors, famous ones, newcomers, people with Oscars, and people still trying to land their first major role. Each one looking over their shoulder, each one terrified to speak. I saw it in their eyes, he said. We were all trapped in the same nightmare, pretending we were lucky to be there. The worst part? The industry rewarded him for staying quiet. Bigger roles, invitations to secret clubs, film deals that just happened to come through. All because he played the game. The system didn't need to threaten me out loud, he said. It just needed to remind me that I was replaceable. And when he did push back, just once, everything shifted. One missed party, one declined favor, and suddenly a blockbuster role disappeared. That's when I realized, he said, that silence wasn't a weakness. It was the currency, the price of entry. His voice cracked, and I had paid it over and over. Dwayne Johnson thought he was attending a work retreat, a chance to connect, recalibrate, breathe. Instead, it felt like walking into a trap with no way out. It started like a corporate offsite, he said. There was a bus, smiling hosts, a desert estate. I was told there would be agents, producers, studio heads. But when he arrived, the reality sank in. No agents, no producers, just a handful of artists, some famous, some still unknown, confined in sterile, windowless rooms. Phones were confiscated at the gate. Food arrived sporadically, cold and untouched by human hands. Music played 24/7, ambient tones, eerie loops, never ending, never changing. They were handed papers, not schedules, not contracts, scripts, repetition-heavy lines written in the style of mantras. I will not question the process. Success requires surrender. The path forward is paved with silence. Dwayne said they were instructed to read them aloud, again and again. They told us it was for mental focus. But after the first day, it started to feel like brainwashing. He looked around and realized the others were just as confused. But no one asked questions, because fear had already sunk its claws in. They called it elite training, he told the jury. But it wasn't training, it was breaking us down. Days blurred together. Sleep became impossible. Some began muttering lines in their sleep. One actor tried to leave and was gone within an hour. Bags packed for him, no goodbye, just vanished. It was like they were reshaping us, Dwayne said, stripping away who we were so they could rebuild us into what they needed. The smiling hosts were gone, replaced by stone-faced men in suits, always watching, always quiet. And Dwayne says that's when he fully understood. This wasn't about career. It wasn't about growth. It was about control. He described seeing his own reflection one night, hollow eyes, clenched jaw, repeating lines that no longer felt like words. I didn't recognize myself, he said. I felt like a tool, a puppet, something they were programming to obey. It wasn't physical torture. It was something far more sinister, psychological suffocation, the removal of identity. And behind it all, never visible but always present, was the shadow of Diddy. I didn't see him at the retreat, Dwayne said, but I felt him. Every rule, every ritual, every whisper of power led back to him. After everything he'd endured, the ritual, the retreat, the silent pressure, Dwayne thought he had seen the worst of it. But he was wrong, because sometimes the most disturbing things don't happen in secret. They happen in plain sight. It was called the White Party, a lavish affair in the Hollywood Hills, hosted by insiders, attended by the elite. The invitation called it a private film screening and networking event. But the moment Dwayne stepped through the door, something felt off. The lighting was dim, too dim for a party. Security guards stood by every exit, phones were taken upon arrival, and every guest was handed a mask. They said it was to protect our privacy, Dwayne recalled, but it felt more like they wanted to protect themselves. Inside, music pulsed through the air, low and hypnotic. The decor was stunning. The faces were familiar. Actors, musicians, directors, all moving in slow, calculated steps, all avoiding eye contact. There was this tension, Dwayne said, like we were all part of something we didn't sign up for. He wandered the rooms, looking for someone to talk to, someone who felt as uncomfortable as he did. And that's when he saw him, a young actor, barely out of his 20s, standing in the hallway clutching a drink, hands trembling, eyes red. Dwayne approached, asked if he was okay. The young man didn't respond right away. Then, in a whisper, he said, "They say this is the price you pay." The words hit Dwayne like a slap. "I left early," he said. "I couldn't stay. I couldn't pretend that was normal." That night, he didn't sleep. Not because of what he saw, but because of what he felt. "I realized I wasn't invited because of my talent," he said. "I was invited because they thought I'd stay silent." And for years, he did. Because the system didn't threaten him with words. It used something far more effective. Fear. The fear of being labeled difficult. The fear of vanishing from the spotlight. The fear of losing it all. Not because of failure, but because of truth. "People ask why we don't speak up," Dwayne told the court. "Why we just smile and play along. The answer is simple. We're afraid." For years, Dwayne Johnson wore the mask. He smiled for cameras, gave motivational speeches, and played the part of Hollywood's most unshakable man. But inside, he was falling apart. "I lay awake so many nights," he confessed, asking myself, if I stayed silent, did that make me part of the problem? He wasn't just afraid of losing roles. He was afraid of losing who he was. The shame, the rituals, the retreat, the masks. It all built up like a ticking bomb in his chest, and it nearly broke him. "I started questioning everything," he said. "My success, my choices, even my identity." He described waking up one morning, staring into the mirror, and not recognizing the man looking back. That's when the therapy sessions began to shift. His psychologist helped him peel back the trauma, the layers of conditioning. And then, something unexpected happened. Cassie Ventura came forward. Her lawsuit against Diddy wasn't just about her own experience. It cracked the silence wide open. "Hearing her speak gave me something I hadn't felt in years," Dwayne said. Permission to admit that what happened wasn't okay." That moment changed everything. "She made me realize that silence doesn't protect the victim. It protects the abuser." Dwayne started writing down everything he had buried, every party, every whispered threat, every moment where he felt his integrity slipping away in exchange for opportunity. "It was the hardest thing I've ever done," he told the court, "because I had to admit that I let it happen, that I played along, that I let fear speak louder than truth." But with every page, with every therapy session, with every memory he reclaimed, he felt a shift, a flicker of the man he used to be. And that flicker was enough. "I knew then," he said, "that if I didn't tell the truth, I'd lose everything anyway. My peace, my dignity, my voice." So he made the decision to walk into that courtroom, to face Diddy, to testify. Not just for himself, but for everyone who'd been silenced. "I'm not here for revenge," he said. "I'm here because truth is the only thing I have left that's mine." The courtroom was silent. All eyes were locked on Dwayne Johnson as he turned toward the man who had once held all the power. Diddy. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't break down. He just looked the man in the eye and finally said what he'd been holding back for nearly 2 decades. "I want to say this man to man," he began, "because I've held it in too long." Diddy didn't flinch, but the tension in the room was undeniable. "I once believed that to succeed, I had to compromise who I was, that I had to sacrifice my integrity just to earn a place at the table." Dwayne's voice was calm, but every word cut like a blade. "And I bought into that. I let the pressure twist my values. I let fear masquerade as ambition. But I see it now. That wasn't strength. That was weakness in disguise." The jury was still. The judge leaned forward slightly. No objections, no interruptions, just truth. "I'm not here to tear anything down," he continued. "I'm here because someone has to say what others are too scared to admit." Then he paused and turned to the gallery, to the victims, the witnesses, the industry insiders watching from behind dark glasses and tighter lips. "There are people out there right now," he said, "who are still stuck in that same machine, still being manipulated, intimidated, broken down piece by piece, all for the illusion of access." He looked back at Diddy. "You built that machine. You fed it. You weaponized silence and wrapped it in luxury. But now, the silence is cracking." Diddy's face was unreadable, but the moment was unmistakable. There are artists who left this industry not because they failed, but because they were exhausted, tired of hiding, tired of being owned. And then came the line that stunned even the court reporter into stillness. "I stayed silent because I feared losing everything," Dwayne said. "But the truth is, I had nothing if I lost myself." He looked down at his hands, steady now, then back to the jury. "I'm not here to rewrite the past. I'm here to end the cycle. For myself, for the ones who couldn't speak, and for the ones still trapped in it." As the courtroom sat frozen, Dwayne Johnson took one last look around. He had said everything he came to say. But as he stepped down from the witness stand, he paused, one hand gripping the edge, his voice low but firm. "It ends here," he said, "with the truth." There was no applause, no dramatic music, just a heavy silence thick with realization. Dwayne didn't walk out like a movie hero. He didn't need to. He walked out as a man who had finally taken back control, not of Hollywood, but of himself. But just before the doors closed behind him, he stopped, turned, and addressed the room. Not the judge, not the jury, not even Diddy. Everyone. "Put this on the record," he said. "My story isn't about fame. It's not about scandal. It's about the ones who never got to speak, the ones who didn't survive long enough to make it here, the ones still trapped in silence, thinking no one would believe them." He looked directly at the gallery, his words slow and deliberate. "Hollywood has thrived for decades on a lie, that power justifies anything, that success excuses silence, that loyalty means surrender. But that lie is unraveling. And then, the final blow. To anyone watching, wondering if it's safe to speak out, this is your sign. A beat. The silence is over. We're not afraid anymore." And just like that, he was gone. No entourage, no handlers, just a man who once played gods and giants. Now walking away, human, raw, broken, but free. And in that moment, it wasn't just Dwayne Johnson who reclaimed his voice. It was a warning to an industry built on secrets, and a wake-up call to anyone who thought the silence would last forever.